crisis is marked with adversities and setback, they often pave way for new and unexpected opportunities. And the pharma and the life sciences sector has been through just that. The last 1.5 years of the pandemic has served witness to the transformation that the sector has seen and the real potential that the sector has. The pharma and life sciences sector has outperformed the broader market by an impressive margin, rising as much as 54% in the last year and boosting profitability. India has also been at the forefront of drug supplies to the world, that they have been for decades together, with 50% of the global demand for vaccines addressed by the Indian pharmaceutical industry. And the industry is hoping and striving to achieve the same for COVID-19 vaccines as well. Majority of the repurposed drugs that were used during COVID-19 treatments across the world were also being supplied by Indian pharmaceutical companies. And one aspect that has emerged as the driving force over the last few years, and particularly during the years of the pandemic, was how has technology led the long-term transformation and aided in driving new age pharma innovations? And that is what we will discuss today in this special edition of Boardroom Dialogues. Hello and welcome. I'm Archana Shukla from CNBC-TV18, and today we've brought together a bunch of brightest minds from the pharmaceutical and life sciences industry to gain insightful perspective on how technology is changing the way forward for the industry. So together, let's welcome Priyanka Chigurupati, Executive Director of Granules USA and Granules Pharmaceuticals, Inc., Ramesh Swaminathan, Executive Director and Head Corporate Affairs at Lupin, Nikhil Chopra, CEO of JB Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals, Vivek Parthiban, COO of Kaplan Point Labs, Vaishali Kasture, Head of Enterprise Business India and South Asia, AISPL, Siddharth Mittal, CEO and MD, Biocon, Dr. Satyanarayana Chaba, Founder and Chief Executive Officer at Loris Lab. Well, that is the lineup we have today. And let me start with Ramesh Swaminathan first. Ramesh, if I can pose this question from a broader context to set the stage for this discussion. How much has the adoption of technology been with the pharma industries in the last few years, especially the Indian industry? We are seen as a laggard in tech adoption, but do you think the industry has gone ahead, especially through the value chain, taken tech intervention, and which could be the areas where you think we are still lacking?
That's a very interesting question that you're asking me. Our objective till date has been affordable care at very high quality. And given the fact that there is price erosion in this industry all the time, we've been doing all that is necessary to reduce costs, to improve on productivity, and of course, improve quality all the time, because quality is at the center of everything that we do. We have used a lot of conventional measures in the past, nothing but robust common sense, which goes from negotiating with various vendors to looking at various routes to synthesis and the like. We've also been, on the forefront of adoption of technology. Here, I don't really quite agree with you. Though this being a regulated industry, it obviously has to go through a regulatory pathway in terms of everything that we do. So we are onto the digital roadmap, as is every other industry around. And there, we are also looking at, in fact, internal efficiencies, as well as ways in which we can actually reach out to the customer. When you speak about, digital technologies, we're speaking about smart factories all the way. So we are looking at various measures across the entire value chain. When you talk about, for example, manufacturing, we have got on to a host of measures, which could include digital measures for along the, in terms of trying to do what is the golden batch. For example, we have always looked at various SCADA, PLC systems, and so on. We are now moving on to sensors to kind of monitor at least about 1,000 manufacturing parameters, which will help in deciphering what is the golden batch, deciphering what in terms of out of specifications, out of trends, and the like. We're also adopting technologies like augmented reality for quality control, step-by-step guidance to new operators for both production as well as for compliance and the like. We are looking at, for example, digital twins for planning and scheduling with the view to kind of integrate equipment, materials, people, and the like. Besides, in fact, the entire digital roadmap, we're also looking at, in fact, continuous manufacturing. And this is essentially for large batches. As you know, API is all about reaction, separation, and purification, and formulations is essentially into granulations, compression, coating, and packing. How do you actually how do we look at continuous manufacturing for this is a challenge, but we are certainly adopting this. As the food industry, for example, has already adopted that. We're also looking at 3D printing for bespoke medicines, for smaller batches and the like. So we are in the forefront of technology adoption, perhaps not necessarily in the same way as other industries, but for sure it is also touching our industry, and we're doing all that it takes to continue to do affordable care at very high quality for the rest of the world.
Okay. Well, thanks for setting the stage for this conversation, Mr. Swaminathan. Let me bring in Priyanka here into this conversation. The company that focuses a lot on APIs. Priyanka, help us understand what has been the kind of investments you've made in your organization when it comes to automation of your plants, when it comes to automation, across the API value chain, and what is the bigger role that tech is playing there?
Sure. Actually, I would like to completely resonate with Mr. Swaminathan on everything that he said. And like you rightfully said, we've been kind of on the forefront of technology and automation at some level for the longest period, because we do continuous manufacturing of extremely large volume APIs. So we have introduced the DCS system a while ago for most of our API facilities, with that focus completely on continuous manufacturing. And at the same time, what it does is it has the M2M technology, which essentially is, in a nutshell, is sensor to software communication, which is then hard coded into hardware, and that kind of enables us to backtrack into what Mr. Swaminathan said, which is the golden batch. Right from the input level to the process level, having process and seeing everything that it took to get this perfect batch in place and trying to replicate it to as much as we can. That's what we have been doing with this DCS system. And the best thing is, it sounds a little bit jaded because I'm talking about cutting down human intervention at this point. But I think with this having a semi-centralized to a little bit decentralized control, the number of hands touching the product goes down significantly. And I think that reduces any potential possibilities of human error, which, again, there's other benefits like quality, cost efficiencies that are all built into it. And I think that's what has enabled us the growth we have with these large volume APIs that have been in the market for a long time. And okay, the future is exactly this, where we can implement it on production. I've already mentioned how we can work on it. Even with supply chain, I think going forward, there will be this whole blockchain technology implemented in supply chain. Swaminathan said a combination of both is how we would work for large volume API manufacturers, at least.
Well, there is a lot of use of data, artificial intelligence when it comes to drug discovery, when it comes to R&D particularly. And let me bring in Mr. Siddharth Mittal into the conversation. Mr. Mittal, if I can pose this question to you. How much do you think is India actually using the potential of data, artificial intelligence, IoT, when it comes to drug discovery? Are we using it appropriately when it comes to shortening times of clinical trials, similar to what we've seen during the pandemic year, similar to what we've seen happen to COVID-19 vaccines, where even the proof of concept was done on cloud? Are we using that? And do you think the road ahead for the pharmaceutical industry, life sciences industry particularly, when it comes to innovation, will be driven by AI, IoT, and data?
Definitely, we have seen a lot of evolvement over last couple of years in respect to the artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we think that artificial intelligence and machine learning can definitely help drug manufacturing by improving yield and reducing error. But when it comes to clinical trials, I believe that artificial intelligence or machine learning can be deployed effectively to enable a more targeted selection of subjects, as natural language processing can help extract and analyze relevant information from a patient's EHR records, compare with eligibility criteria for ongoing trials and recommended matching studies. Artificial intelligence can also solve enrollment challenges. Today, we have a lot of challenges when we are looking at hiring subjects for these trials. Solutions using artificial intelligence to extract information from patient medical records can help simplify the enrollment process by automatically verifying some of the inclusions and the exclusions criteria. I also believe that artificial intelligence can enable remote patient monitoring for clinical trials, apart from ensuring medication adherence during the course of the trial. So with the data available, you'll realize that obviously for artificial intelligence to be successful, you need a lot of data. And today with the data available on cloud, you will have enormous amount of data or the data lake. And all that you need is to analyze that data using artificial intelligence to make the relevant decisions. And today we have seen in West, a lot of large pharma companies are using artificial intelligence to cut down the clinical trial time, clinical trial cost, improve the outcomes of these clinical trials, and thereby bringing these life-saving drugs to patients at a much faster pace than what was done traditionally.
Nikhil, if you may want to, come in at this point and add from the broader perspective as well. You're doing your own manufacturing. You're also dealing with, with the third-party manufacturers, with your API suppliers, vendors, etc. How has technology helped in bringing and managing all of that together, in looking at inventory management? How much have we improved, let's say, in the last couple of years when we talk about this inventory management, dealing with vendors, and is it easier to manage the quality aspect with your third party vendors with technology?
First of all, Archana, what I think Mr. Swaminathan spoke about, the quality medicines at affordable prices is a fundamental to human right in India. So that is what has to be the cornerstone. And I think in last couple of years, with the role that supply chain manufacturing has played in terms of difficult times of pandemic, I think the Indian pharmaceutical industry has to be appreciated a lot. The way we deal in terms of we have got 8 manufacturing units of our own in southern part of Gujarat, and getting into the world of artificial intelligence, looking at how imagine from a perspective of how AI being at the core of predictive analytics used for QC and manufacturing and data screening and clinical trial analysis. All this conceptually has been the foray that we have got into, and we are looking at how do we get into the big data analytics of reducing variability and waste, reducing in our own manufacturing site, looking at taking some baby steps in looking at from a robotic process automation in manufacturing. So this is what, from a technology perspective, we are trying to bring in our own manufacturing site, working closely with the P2P NL partners. There is a on any given time, there is a full vendor assess management tools which are available, which constantly sitting at your place. You can look at what is happening on those third parties, and at the end of the day, how the quality of the medicine which has been supplied to the patients have to be taken care for every tablet, every strip, every bottle of syrup. That is what we practice. That is what we preach, and that is our mantra in terms of when looking at how technology has to come in and how it can help us in terms of delivering better results and bringing customer delight at the end of the day.
Let me pose this question, Ramesh. Tell us about the inventory management and the
for sure, technology is certainly helping us. So there are two parts to this. We have actually got a lot of platforms which we are also implementing. Very, very sophisticated tools like Kinaxis, etc., to help us in terms of our own supply chain management, which certainly includes the inventory management part of it also. But we've also gone beyond that. So we're kind of collaborating, and so we have the association has actually come together in some ways, collaborating to help out, in fact, with the channel partners as well. As you would know, we actually invested in Pharma recently, AVAX and the like. This is essentially for addressing a lot of supply chain issues also, in terms of knowing, this is really to help out the distributors and the retailers, so there is no stockout situations, or for that matter, helping the industry itself in terms of aged products with them and the like. And of course, passing on the right pricing to make sure that there is no outage and the like. So there is a lot of collaboration, and there is a lot of work that you're using technology to do, which is in the right direction.
Okay. Vivek, come in on this point. Help us understand from your company perspective, with the focus that you have in the emerging markets. How are you dealing on the supply chain management, particularly during the last 1.5 years of the pandemic, and how did technology help your company?
Yeah. So we're a little bit differentiated in terms of our supply chain, because about 60% of the products that we manufacture are in-house, and the other 35-40% goes out of China. Now, we are one of the early entrants into China. We realized that we didn't need to reinvent the wheel by bringing in the API wherever that was cheaper from China back into India and then converting them into formulations. So we sort of took a step further, and then we started manufacturing formulations directly out of China. If nothing at all, this pandemic sort of opened up our eyes, gave us a lot more visibility over how strong the supply chain needs to be. And even though I would say that in whatever little sense we were one of the smaller ones to get affected by this, or lesser affected ones by this, we noticed that even the API that we were getting out of India also had their key starting materials and everything coming out of other countries as well. So when it comes to inventory wise and stuff, I think there was a fair amount of build-up that was seen in many companies, but I think overall a fair amount of self-reliance will certainly go a long way. It's not going to happen overnight, because whatever that the other countries that are better at us at this moment have done so far didn't happen overnight. We understand that it took them decades to get to where they are right now, but I think with whatever that's happened, policy-wise in the last 12-18 months, I think these are steps in the right direction. We definitely need to be a bit more patient, and we can't expect results overnight. But for sure, I think self-reliance is something that will help out over the longer term.
Okay, and on self-reliance, let me ask Priyanka about the PLI scheme that the government has spoken about. Has there been any movement on that, Priyanka? Or what is the status right now from your company perspective and overall from the industry perspective, as far as becoming self-reliant in API is concerned?
So the first scheme that was out, I think I mentioned this a couple of times. It wasn't the most effective for pharmaceutical manufacturers. But the second scheme, that's still being evaluated, but our team has approached the government on this front. And I think the second scheme is much more evolved than the first scheme, for sure. So that is what we're working on right now. But there's a lot of commercial aspects that we have to look at within the second scheme that we're still evaluating. And as we move ahead, we will keep.
Mr. Shava, if I can ask you, pose this question to you from the API manufacturing and supply chain perspective. Have you been able to adopt technology to its fullest use when it comes to managing your supply chain, when you're dealing with your third-party vendors and your customers? How well has technology helped you there?
In the API business, our success always depends on our vendors' capability and their ability to supply starting materials on time. In fact, in the APIs where we have a leadership position, we don't buy any intermediates. We buy starting materials and convert them into intermediates. And in those intermediates, we have employed the best technologies at the highest scale possible, depending on the reactions. For example, we have leadership in chromatography capabilities, where we boast ourselves as the largest chromatography capability company in Asia. And we also have a lot of capabilities in chiral technologies, where we stereoselective synthesis or separation we do. So those technologies help the companies to get to leadership position and retain market share. If you look at the other Asian countries, especially China, where they dominate, they have used large-scale manufacturing coupled with even in some cases, what we have also observed, continuous flow reactions. That means they convert the batch reactions into continuous flow reactions and then get cost leadership. So Indian companies are also trying to get leadership position by employing these kind of technologies.
Okay, let me bring in Vaishali Kasture into the conversation now. We're talking about technology. We're talking about data capturing. We are talking about expanding and using technology and data. Vaishali, that poses a big question when it comes to data security. Do you think that's one of the biggest challenges, and how can the industry, as critical as that of pharmaceutical and life sciences, deal with that?
Thanks, Archana. So yes, absolutely. I think, as I've heard many of my colleagues in the panel discussion today talk about the kind of things that they are trying to do. What comes at the core is obviously privacy, right? Privacy, data security. You want to accelerate your journey on the cloud because you can innovate, right? I mean, that's the future. If you want to do advanced services, you want to use the platform more effectively in order to innovate, to do, a variety of things I heard today. I heard about the digitized shop floor. I heard about blockchain, connected factories, IoTs, digital twins, 3D printing. And the fact remains that in order to accelerate all of this, you need to be, the cloud is where you can innovate and accelerate and get better and better outcomes using technology. But in order to start on that journey, you will need to make sure that how do I take care of my privacy and security? And for us at AWS particularly, security is day zero. We practically invented, the status of the cloud as it stands today. And for us, I mean, it's front and center. We talk about security of the cloud. It is day zero for us. Every day we wake up thinking, talking, and implementing. How do we ensure that we keep the cloud secure? We work with a lot of regulated industries. We work with pharma, we work with banking. And what we really try to do is that ensure that we have the tools, industry guidance, which is necessary for our customers. For example, if you talk about HIPAA, I think, our platform is HIPAA compliant. We work with all the industry, the regulators in the industry. We work very closely with them. We have a large pharma and life sciences practice. When it comes to our platform, we have more than 130 HIPAA eligible services and certifications which are compliant with ISO, IEC. We have over 500 features and services which are focused on security and compliance. So, we take security very seriously. Just a couple of quick examples. This industry practice which we established is over 8 years old. And, since there was talk about COVID, supply chain, and getting drugs quickly at affordable prices in a controlled manner, out there to the public. A couple of examples I'd like to quote, which are very relevant given the where we've been in the last 12 to 18 months. When Moderna decided that they are going to create a vaccine which is going to be based on mRNA, they worked, on a cloud platform. We were privileged that they chose to work on us. Similarly, when AstraZeneca went down the path of vaccine creation, again, they did all their analysis and testing on a cloud platform. Again, we are honored that they chose to work with us. Similarly, Novartis, Pfizer, digital landscape is huge and people are using the power of technology. And it is our job every day to wake up and worry about security and data privacy so that our customers can innovate freely and take advantage of the cloud. Back to you, Archana.
Absolutely. You led me to my next question, which I was hoping we'll talk about, was cloud and the use of cloud and AI, particularly for drug development as well as vaccine development that we've seen over the pandemic. And you gave excellent examples of Moderna and AstraZeneca using the cloud platform very efficiently. Mr. Mittal, come in on this. Have you been able to use technology to actually manage regulatory compliance with your vendors, with your suppliers, API suppliers, etc.? Has technology helped you on that point?
Well, definitely there is a lot of evolution happening there. It's still in initial stages, I would say. We have a regulatory information system that is being there in the industry for last few years. And while it's not fully integrated with our vendors, with API suppliers, but definitely the steps are there to ensure that we integrate the regulatory information that we have between our customers and our vendors to make the entire value chain seamless. But it's going to take some time. I mean, it's still an evolving process. I mean, in the pharma industry, as we all know, that while there is change happening in terms of technology adoption, technology innovation, but we are still laggards as far as the industry is concerned compared to some of the other industries. I mean, if I take an example of automobile industry, it's a highly integrated industry. The supply chain is very well linked through technology. So we do definitely see these new trends. We are also evaluating a couple of solutions which would link our regulatory systems with that of our customer and vendor.
Vivek, I wanted to pose this question to you. Have you seen the adoption of cloud computing and AI in the space that you operate in? Has there been a move on that side?
Yes, I think quite a lot of the tools that we are using right now, we are on the cloud already. I personally believe quite a lot in automation. I think it was Priyanka that was speaking about how there are instances quite a lot of times in especially our industries where we are prone to human errors. And as much as we would like the cost to be low, I think if we look at it more from a long-term perspective, I think automation certainly helps. And many of these tools, including our LIB softwares and our ERP systems and our entire supply chain management, we are trying to move out to the cloud as much as possible. Some of these plug and play models already come to us directly on the cloud. And I think today, if you had to look at something, we are probably about 80% on the cloud versus in-house at this moment. So I think going forward, as Ms. Vaishali was talking about, only the paranoid survive. So waking up every day thinking that is there going to be a crash today is a good way to pitch, I think. And we fully believe in the cloud. I think given the next 4 or 5 years, I'd be very surprised if any segment of pharmaceutical industry continues to remain in-house.
Right. Ramesh, take it from that point. Have we seen this being a discussion point in the boardrooms of Indian pharmaceutical companies as well, the adoption of technology, the AI, cloud computing for research and development? Is the senior management, the top heads of the organizations looking at this very seriously?
The root problem is essentially trying to lower the overall cycle time for development of drugs itself. So to that extent, there is a lot of usage being promoted there. The idea is, of course, to bring in a lot of visibility when it comes to root cause analysis about why what happens, focusing on what needs to be done, what action needs to be taken, and of course the agility of response itself. We obviously, the whole thing is, of course, data driven, so we're using a lot of predictive analytics to look at various analytical processes and so on. It is still in a nascent stage. I would not say that the generic industry has taken to it as perhaps, in fact, the innovative industry itself. But for sure, we are actually adopting a lot of this to reduce the cycle time when it comes to development of drugs itself.
Dr. Chava, with your experience of operating in this space, which is heavily driven by supply chain management, and looking at what is happening globally, do you think there are technological tools globally available which the Indian pharmaceutical industry still needs to adopt? What are the gaps that you think needs to be filled in before we can actually take that leap on technological advancement for the pharmaceutical industry here in India?
Again, I will go back to the interdependency of the companies operating in this space. I'll give a very specific example. For one of the intermediate, you need, say, carbon monoxide. In India, who need carbon monoxide, they were to buy from manufacturer, transport to several hundred kilometers, and then use it in the chemical process. Whereas in countries like China, they will set up a facility next to the carbon monoxide available company. In many cases, carbon monoxide is a byproduct for companies. So somebody sets up a manufacturing facility next to a byproduct available company, then cost leadership will come. In India, we don't have such kind of mega industrial parks and also mega companies where they benefit from each other. That is the biggest drawback for us to get leadership. When it comes to technologies, high pressure technologies, high energetic chemistry, and then low temperature chemistry, single fluid chemistry. These are emerging technologies, and India or Indian companies haven't invested much into these technologies, where our neighbors had leadership position in these technologies. So government can do a lot here, setting up centers of excellence in these chemistries, develop standard reactions, and then transfer those technologies to the needing pharmaceutical companies.
Okay. So cycle time reduction is the focus there, and all of you agree and accept that over the next few years we'll see a lot more moving on to cloud and a lot more of AI being used. Let me now address the most crucial element
No,
of the
but
pharma.
I would add a couple of things to this. So besides
Sure,
R&D,
go ahead.
you have AI, ML, which could potentially be used in a host of other things also. Digital healthcare is here to stay. As is telemedicine, the convenience of home, the timing, and the like. The doctors are, of course, finding it extremely convenient as well. Today, we are talking about a lot of wearables. Highly personalized care, the newer models which are evolving all the time. So you're tying up with the various elements of the ecosystem, the insurance, the finance companies, the online stores, wellness, studying the behavior, nudging behavior in terms of what you eat, what you exercise, what kind of medicine that you take, and the like. All of this, of course, goes to putting the patient to the center of all our activities with a view to to delivering better health, integrating the entire value chain. All of this actually uses AI ML in a big way. Much more evolved in other parts of the globe, but for sure developing in India as well.
Okay, I wanted to pose this question to you, Nikhil, that, with the advent of the telemedicine, with the advent of the patient side being linked with the technology, are we seeing a change in the traditional marketing model of pharma companies? Especially now that online pharmacies have also made their way into it. Front-end sales is changing the way. So what is the on-ground change that you are seeing?
See, Archana, from a perspective of what has not happened in last 7 years in the world of e-pharmacy, if I have to talk about, or in the world of telecounseling to the patients, I think much more has happened in last 7 months in terms of what pandemic, what we face. So things are turning around. If I have to talk about in the world of e-pharmacy, in the world of teleconsultation, but I think one thing has to be kept in mind, that with the advent of organized retail chain, with the advent of all the malls coming in last 10 years, none of the unorganized retail chains have gone out of business. So we have got 800,000 pharmacies in the country which will continue to operate. Also, the entire world of e-pharmacy, which conceptually has now gained 5 to 7% market share, that at some given time after 5 years, we may look at that it may gain 10 to 15% market share. But nobody will go to a e-pharmacy for buying an acute medication. Basically, I think the more incremental gain that in the world of e-pharmacy is going to happen with chronic medication, which is 30-40% of the market. That is what is my view from a perspective of. But overall, when we talk to healthcare professionals, and I think many of the things have progressed in terms of more and more patients now, elderly patients, where their siblings are helping them to get into the world of teleconsultation, which is picking up in a big way. And doctors also have changed their model in terms of how do they want to at least now bring point of care at the residence of the patient, which all diagnostics, delivery of medications, entire online consultations. Things are picking up, but I think what COVID has forced us to look at newer avenues of options where teleconsultation can be happening for the patient sitting at their home. Medications can be delivered at the patient's residence. Point of care diagnostic also can be done at the consumer residence. So things are changing, but it is taking time for things to climb up the ladder in a big way.
Okay, there is still some time, but there is ample opportunity to expand, especially from the e-commerce side of the business, is what you are saying. Let me now pose a very crucial element and a question, particularly from the perspective of regulatory compliance. Now, that is one aspect which the entire value chain of pharmaceutical industry is related the entire value chain is related to, and technology is making a difference there. We've seen regulators, especially from the developed countries like that of US, Europe, Japan, paying a lot more attention on strengthening the technological advancements in even the Indian manufacturing space as well, to reduce errors, to reduce human intervention. Priyanka, if I can bring this question to you, how much do you think the pharma industry has actually moved on that, and what is it that we still need to achieve when it comes to adopting technology to reduce errors and being ahead when it comes to regulatory compliance?
Sure, I think that's a very important question, especially now in the regulatory scenario that we have right now. I think over the last couple of years, a lot of companies have significantly adopted automation of all their quality systems, with QMS, LIMS, etc., and then moving it to a cloud-based system. And then even their batch manufacturing records, etc., everything has become digital. And I have seen that progress made by many companies, because this paper-based system is extremely human dependent. To put it in a nutshell, and to just speak for it simply, one person messing up can literally destroy the reputation that you've built for your company over the years. So I think having that transparency built in through systems and communicating with regulatory agencies through that is key. I think I'll speak from ourselves as a company. We have been in that, following that system for a very long time, and we'll continue to do so. And I think for even the smaller companies, the biggest impediment to move to any sort of automation would be the risk-reward ratio. I think the financial burden is quite a bit, but I think there is a huge reward to doing that, because that purely enables transparency. And for any company that focuses on quality and compliance, I think this is a no-brainer. This is something that we absolutely have to do.
Right. The risk reward is, that comparison, I think the Indian pharmaceutical industry has understood and are investing more. Ramesh, if you can give me a perspective from Lupin, what has been the kind of investment you've made there? And I know the large pharma companies in India have gone ahead to entirely revamp and transform, the data capturing that happens at the manufacturing end, even at the R&D space. But can you give me a comparison on how much has it helped you reduce your errors? Is there any assessment that you would have done there? Because right now, the US FDA also asks you to go down and do the root cause analysis. How much has this technology helped you there?
No, as Priyanka was just saying, so we have been using technology for quite some time. So we had each batch records, we had DAX systems all the time, we had SCADA, PLC, and all of that. And we were, in fact, looking at various parameters to look ahead of time in terms of using predictive analytics for potentially looking at OS, OOT, and the like. This is actually an implementation stage, so I wouldn't actually go down the path and say that it's fully there. It's an evolving thing, and we are down the path of actually implementing it. We do believe that will significantly bring down the cost of compliance and the cost of non-compliance, so to speak. And this will certainly help our case as with the rest of the industry as well.
Right. Vivek, with your experience from China as well as the other markets, emerging markets like that of Latin America and India, of course, how is technology helping you bridge that gap on regulatory compliance? Because every country has a different regulatory compliance parameters. How is technology helping you there?
Yeah, see, back in the day, probably about 10 years back, I would say, there was this whole concept of non-regulated markets, semi-regulated markets, and fully regulated. Now, my honest opinion is, barring a couple of countries, we're talking about either fully regulated markets or semi-regulated markets, right? So even the ones that are semi-regulated as well, they largely these days rely on inspection records and data from these larger regulated markets such as the EU or the PICS or US FDA and all that, right? So the question always has been, what is going to be my return on investment on these technologies for a short term versus what is going to happen over a long term? Now, it also doesn't help that in these larger markets, the prices of generic products continuously come down. So it is a difficult decision to make, but it is one that has to be made. I think in plain English, it's a case of machines don't lie. It's the men that might lie, So I think over a longer term, as long as you're in it for the long run, longevity, all of those things included, I think there is like Priyanka I think said, it's a no-brainer that we need to go towards technology, and you'll be surprised at how many things that it might help move out in our own company. After getting LIMS implemented, we were able to do away with a huge number of log books and stuff. It might look, or it might seem a little trivial, but if you consider that we spend, lakhs and lakhs of rupees on a monthly basis on just maintaining lab books, you will try to understand there is a little bit of a balance that you can strike with the right amount of implementation technologies.
Okay, Vaishali, let me pose a futuristic question to you. What are the aspects, where you think there is still room for growth, particularly if we look at the pharmaceutical and life sciences industry from the lens of technological advancement, use of AI, cloud, etc.?
Yeah, so I think, like many of my co-panelists have said today, that we are seeing technology being used in a manner in the last 7 to 8 months that we haven't seen perhaps collectively in the last 7 years, if you put everything together. And there's still a lot of scope where we can apply technology to the forefront. I think the one piece I'd really like to call out, of course, for all regulated industries, pharma and others as well, that technology is no longer a conversation which is had as a support function. I think technology has moved from being a support function to an enabler of growth, revenue, creating new revenue models, monetizing your existing assets. I mean, there's a whole lot that technology is able to do. So technology is no longer something that is done on the side, but technology is front and center. We have today on our panel CEOs, CFOs, heads of IT. Technology is being used in a manner which has never been used before. And a couple of things, like I had also mentioned earlier, that everything from drug discovery to delivery, everybody wants to focus on making the entire journey digital. So of course there is scope, like I had mentioned earlier, in R&D, research and development, the ability to accelerate the entire drug discovery process. A lot of it, as was mentioned, is being done already, say in the US, UK, but we will see acceleration in India as well. The other space is in clinical trials. Using AI and ML, it's becoming very core to help in things like candidate identification, recruitment, engagement, and predictions, outcome predictions. In the manufacturing space, as Mr. Swaminathan had said, the entire digitization of the shop floor, and this is not just in pharma, digitizing factories, creating connected factories, taking the factories onto the cloud is something which I'm seeing across the value chain. Of course, it will happen in pharma as well. And then, of course, a strong commercial platform when it comes to better, patient engagement, patient management. I mean, there's a plethora of things. But if I were to pick one thing, which I think, which I feel very sort of passionately about, is how do you to do all of this, whether it is R&D, clinical trials, digitizing the shop floor, connecting your factories, having a strong commercial, a stronger platform to connect customer, patient engagement. I think for all of that, you need to have the ability to look at your data and collect data, interpret data, and then convert data into insights and eventually monetize it, which may be in the form of faster drug discovery, faster identification of potential patients, so on and so forth. But at the center of it, I think if you connect all of these themes, it boils down to having the ability to store, transform, query, analyze all your health data in minutes, doing a variety of things, looking at structured and unstructured data, using ML, using NLP. So at the core of it, I think, is data, no matter which way you look at it. And the ability to evaluate, analyze your data and convert data to insights is, I think, going to be at the crux in the near future.
Right. Mr. Swaminathan, do you want to add to that from your experience of the industry and the tech adoption? Which are the areas that you think the Indian industry still needs to focus on from the perspective of technology adoption?
Actually, we are at the cusp of great change. And you would see that there is great adoption across the entire value chain. We started from, in fact, manufacturing, and we spoke about supply chain. There's a lot of things that are still evolving when it comes to, in fact, business models, how healthcare is being delivered to the end patient. We spoke about telehealth, home health, remote diagnostics, and the like. So all of this is certainly, makes the entire future a lot more very, very exciting. The idea, of course, is to integrate the entire value chain, make pills to come along with services. Digital infused behavior changes would lead to better outcomes, and that's the core idea. So if you can actually merge, in fact, the pharmaceutical delivery along with a host of other services, that will actually lead to much better patient behavior as well as outcomes for the patients.
The unmet market needs for high quality, affordable medicines or generic alternative to expensive innovator drugs is an opportunity, because again, the healthcare cost in India and rest of the world is high. There is a large section of population who does not have access to these medicines. So this is one. The second is, again, industry friendly policy approach is an opportunity. There is also an opportunity for capital inflows and investments in this sector. And during the last 1 year, we have seen a lot of capital flow in, especially in the API industry. And today, customers are looking at de-risking the dependency that they had in China. And the government of India has obviously launched the Atmanirbhar, under the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme, the PLI incentive. And as a result of that, there is a lot of interest and hence capital inflow in the sector. I also think that digitalization is an important step because a lot of efficiencies can come in as a result of digitalization, and an ability to balance cost efficiency, speed, and scale to improve the cost competitiveness, because today the industry is going through a lot of challenges. And unless we are able to balance cost efficiency and bring the drugs in the market at a fast pace and at the lowest cost, we are not going to get these drugs to the patients at an affordable cost. And lastly, moving up the value chain through innovation and a quality focus. So I think when you look at these 5-6 opportunities in the near term, this will definitely help the industry and the sector.
Nikhil, if I can pose one question to you, because you raised the conversation around we still needing more time to develop the online pharmacies, and the pharmaceutical industry using that channel will still take some more time. Let me get another perspective from a different angle. With the advent of the online pharmacies, with the advent of telemedicine, do you think there are certain disadvantages that plague the system currently, which needs to be ironed out before we can actually go ahead and expand through telemedicine or through online pharmacies, or pharmaceutical industry actually using those channels to push sales?
Archana, this should complement the overall progress of the pharmaceutical industry in India, with the entire advent of telecounseling, online pharmacy, point of care at the consumer residence. If those all things are happening, I think it should complement overall from a perspective of how technological enabled solutions are available in terms of patient not stepping out of his house and he's getting diagnosed, he's getting the medicine and all the tests which has to be carried out. And these are all the solutions which today, if you look at the big 4 players which are into the world of online pharmacy, they are trying to bring all these aspects together in terms of how the services can be given to the consumer. And overall, there are changes which are happening in the offices of the healthcare professionals in terms of how they are now getting into the world of Wi-Fi clinics, looking at how data. I think my previous panelist was talking about key is data. Data is the new oil, if I have to talk about. So how overall, from a data perspective, in terms of many of the hospitals, big hospitals in the country, in terms of the data which is information which is available on the patients, it can be just available with the click of the button. So all this eventually is happening, which conceptually we were, if I would talk about 3 years ago, we were thinking. Now we are seeing all these things happening with much more now benefit reaching to the end consumer. I think the key point here is whatever we are trying to do in terms of technology-enabled solutions, artificial intelligence, whatever we want to do in the world of manufacturing, whatever we want to do in the world of quality control, whatever we want to do in the world of R&D, uptake with the help of technology, net, how is it benefiting the end consumer? That is key, and that is what, at least what I can talk about, Archana. I'm seeing that happening when we talk to the healthcare professionals, when we talk to top hospitals of the country, and when you interact with some of the consumers. Those all things are now becoming reality in our country.
Okay. Just very quick last questions to Vivek and to Priyanka. Vivek, are we seeing, I'll link it to what's happening in the country right now, which is the unicorn culture, which is the startups that are taking over all the industries, and they are playing a large role in the healthcare segment as well. We are seeing a lot of health tech companies come in, both front end as well as those that are helping pharmaceutical industries drive the engine and drive the technology adoption. So in your experience, how much of that do you see coming into your company? Are you using some of the startups, some of the startup ecosystem that is coming together to help on this?
Internally, we have put together a group of people that are going to be helping with regards to creating the right kind of dashboards for our sales and for our supply chain and all of the angles from that. We are very much pro-technology at our company, even though we might be at the nascent stages of many things, but we're very much pro-tech, and we're always on the lookout for these young upcoming entrepreneurs that have started very unique things that can enable us to become better than what we are today. So we're very much pro in that aspect. Yes.
Okay, for that's from the front end side. Priyanka, can you quickly add if there has been any push to the startup ecosystem, or from the startup ecosystem for that matter, on the manufacturing side or supply chain side that you've encountered?
Right. So I think, like I said, we have adopted automation a while ago, but probably not to the extent that we are looking at right now. We have, all of us in the company strongly believe that we need to have some level of convergence of IT and OT today to be able to exist tomorrow. So I think, like everybody said, integrated value chain is what is needed, and having this adoption right now is certainly something on the manufacturing side is certainly something that we're looking at enhancing.
Okay, Vaishali, you get the last word on the panel. How much do you think is the startup ecosystem in India supporting this technological adoption for the pharmaceutical and the life sciences sector?
So absolutely, Archana. I mean, if you look at the startup ecosystem in India, and you can cut the data any which way that you want, all the disruption that has been caused, irrespective of the sector, whether you look at pharma, you look at fintech, you look at any kind of a cut of the data. I think the startups are at the front and center, and they have accelerated their ability to build innovative products at short notice, and pivot their business models and experiments and be agile and scale. All of that has been on the backbone of building a solid technology platform. When the pandemic happened, for example, several of these startups, if they were affected negatively, they were able to scale back their spend on the cloud at the click of a button. If it meant I would call them the virus companies. And if you were a vaccine company and you want to accelerate your consumption, you needed more compute, you needed more storage, you needed more analysis. At the click of a button, you could scale up and you could still deliver. And if you take a list of all the unicorns and hot startups that exist in the country, I can very confidently quote a public statistic that 85% of them are on AWS, and more importantly, they have used the cloud to be able to accelerate their growth, and get to these customer obsessed solutions in an agile manner, innovative manner, and staying cost conscious.
Perfect. The virus companies, I like that term. But certainly, I presume there is a lot to learn from the new age startup companies as well on how best to utilize technology, how best to utilize data, survive changes and adapt. But we've seen that whether it's the traditional pharmaceutical companies or the new ones from the startup ecosystem that are making their way into the health tech or R&D space, technology and data is driving their growth and will be the next big chapter for the industry to study and to conquer. Well, gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for being part of Boardroom Dialogues. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and thanks for your perspective.